Hello, everybody. Welcome to How About the Georges, the book, the reading series. This is soon to be Dr. George, Coca George, and who are you?
Eli.
Eli what?
Eli George.
Eli Coca Hard George. Okay, today we will be reading Flik. We'll be reading Flik The Inventor, right?
Yeah.
Today is our first episode of our reading.
Yeah, we want to watch it.
Huh?
We want to watch it.
We're going to watch it. All right. Princess Dot and some of the blue bears stood outside Flik's room in the ant hill. Wheeze! Gulp! Came the noises from inside. As always, Flik was trying to invent something to help the ant colony. Maybe we should ask him if he needs help, Dot suggested. But before anyone could answer, there was a loud thump. Flik bounced out of the room, landing at Dot's feet. Flik muttered as he stood up and brushed himself off. The flinging mechanism must be too tight. Flik was so deep in thought he didn't even notice Dot and her friends. He marched right past them and back into his room. Well, Dot said, at least we know he's okay. The next morning, Dot saw Flik at the edge of the fields with the funny-looking machine. Hi, Flik, Dot said. What you working on? Hello, Princess, said Flik. He smiled happily. This is my pickup and mover machine. How does it work? Asked Dot. Here, let me show you, Flik said as he
can fly.
Here, let me show you, Flik said as he helped Dot up onto a rock.
You hold it.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl went on it.
The girl went on it. Then he started his machine.
Yes.
Soon as an arm on the machine reached out and grabbed Dot, that tickled, she said, giggling. Suddenly, Dot felt herself being lifted in the air.
And I went high.
A moment later, she landed safely on the ground. Woo-wee! Cried Dot. Look how far I've moved. Excellent, Flik said. I'm glad I adjusted that flinging mechanism. Otherwise, you might have ended up on the other side of Ant Island. Just then, Thorny appeared. Flik, Thorny said, why aren't you collecting food with the rest of the worker ants? Hello, Thorny. I was hoping you would ask me that very question, Flik replied. You see, I have invented a new machine. Would you like to see how it works? Thorny was angry. We don't have time for all these silly inventions. There's work to be done. We need to collect food. But Flik tried to explain. Just get to work like the other ants, Thorny. Just get to work like the other ants, Thorny called as he stumped away. Flik hung his head. Don't worry, Flik, Dot said. You'll figure out some way to use your invention. I just know it.
Easy scissors to cut the grass.
Yeah, it must be good for something, but what? Flik said to Dot as he walked out of the fields to work. Later that night, Flik sat in his room trying to think of a useful invention. Suddenly, he got an idea. He worked deeply into the night. Early the next morning, Dot found Flik outside looking intently at a large stalk. Flik, she said, you better get out in the fields with the other ants. Thorny's been looking for you. Sure I will, Dot, Flik said. But would you like to see my latest invention first? It's a stalk chopper. Flik, you're going to get in trouble, Dot warned. You're supposed to be collecting food.
You have to.
Yes, Flik said. I will. Right after I try this out. Stand back, Princess. Flik started up his machine and set to work. Moments later, the stalk was chopped neatly in half. Ah, Flik cried. It worked. How do you like that, Princess? But Dot didn't answer. Thorny did. How many times do I have to tell you there's work to be done, cried Thorny. But Thorny, Flik said, look at this. It's my new stalk chopping machine. We don't have time for this, Thorny insisted. But I'm sure Flik But I'm sure, Flik began. We don't need to chop stalks. We need to collect food, Thorny said. Flik antenna dropped as he walked onto the fields to join the other worker ants. That's all Thorny thinks about, harvesting food, Flik murmured to himself. Then Flik stopped short. That's what we need, he cried. A harvester. A machine to collect food. Flik turned around and raced back to his room. He looked at his pickup and mover machine. Then he looked at his stalk chopping machine. What would happen if I combined them? Flik thought out loud. I guess there's only one way to find out. The following morning, with his new invention strapped to his back, Flik headed towards the field. He smiled as he watched two ant children run past him, playing tag. Then he waved to some worker ants collecting food. Flik sighed happily. He knew that his invention would save the worker ants hours of working time. In fact, Flik thought he might become something of a hero.
You'll fly.
Flik tried to get Thorny's attention, but Thorny was too busy talking to Princess Ada, and Princess Dot was nowhere to be found. Flik, one of the workers' ant calls out. What crazy thing do you invent this time? What crazy thing did you invent this time? Ha ha, the other ants laughed too. That Flik, one said, he's always thinking up useless stuff. But Flik didn't mind the other ants teasing. He was busy starting up his machine. Then he cut down the stalk. Moments later, the flinging mechanism launched dozens of pieces of grain into a basket. Flik's machine worked. Hey, cried one worker ant. That's your pickup and mover machine. That's right, Flik said proudly. And it's connected to your stalk chopping machine? Said another ant. Uh-huh, Flik replied. Wow, shouted the worker ant. Yep, I put them together and made a harvester, Flik explained. Now one ant can collect as much food as the whole bunch of ants put together. Hooray, cried the other ants. 3 cheers for Flik. Flik grinned. He had done it. He had finally created a really useful machine.
Use having.
Dear Blueberry Journal, boy, the worker ants sure do work hard. Just a few of them collect enough food for the entire ant colony to survive winter. Sometimes the seeds are already on the ground and the workers pick them up and carry them away in their mouths. Other times they have to cut the seeds off the grasses and weeds before they can take them. Now that we have Flik's harvester, everyone can gather seeds faster and more easily. Then all the worker ants have to do is carry them inside the nest to keep them dry. Hooray! More time to play. Till next time. Da-da-da-da. That's the end. Flik the Inventor. You like the book? What are your thoughts about Flik?
Let's make the girl fly.
Flik made the girl fly. What else did you get out the book?
And Flik made chop out the grass.
He chopped off the grass. And what else? What did Flik do with the machine?
He makes he
What did Flik do?
Them was connected together. The chopper
Mm-hmm.
and the sink.
And what else? So when Flik created the machine, what did he do?
Make it.
He made a machine. He made the machine easier for the ants to do what?
Like food.
Collect food. He made it easier for the ants to collect food.
Because he didn't.
He did what?
He didn't like food.
He made sure they had the machine that harvested the food and made it easy for the worker ants to collect food, right?
Let me see. He's stumping.
He's stumping.